Welcome to Storytime Chill with Val and Seal. Everyone, we're so happy that you are joining us for another episode of season 3. I am one of your hosts, Miss Cecilia Seal Smith.
And I'm your other host, Valerie Val Johnson Reed.
Again, we are so happy that you are here with us. You could have been anywhere else, but you are tuning in either live or on the replay. And we are so appreciative of your presence. And of course, remember to share, like, and subscribe. So, Val, let's start off. I know we have another astounding author waiting backstage, but we also have some announcements about our HBCU of the week.
We sure do. We sure do. And our HBCU of the week is
Dun, dun, dun.
Jackson State University. Jackson State University. And I learned
Love
something
her.
new about Jackson State University, which I did not know.
Mhm.
Jackson State University was founded as Natchez Seminary in 1877 by the American Baptist Home Missionary Society. Jackson State went from a college to university status in March of 1974. Their motto is changing minds, changing lives. They are home to the sonic boom of the South. Some people say that's the
Ooh.
best band in the land. I beg to differ, but okay, sure. And they are known for saying the Jackson State, the I love. So shout out to Jackson State's Tigers,
Yes.
all of their and they do play my school this weekend. The SWAC
Prairie
championship
View.
is Prairie View A&M University versus Jackson State. So
Yes.
shout out to both of those schools. Congratulations, and we look forward to many more.
Yes. I love the HBCU banter. It's all love, but it's like
It
so
is.
competitive.
It
It's so
is.
competitive.
It really
Um,
is.
it's Deion Sanders. He's the one coaching for Jackson State as well, right?
Deion Sanders is their coach. So,
Okay.
they call him Coach Prime. So Coach
Yeah.
Prime, you know,
He's doing
hey.
some amazing things
And he
there. And
really
I
is.
believe he also won Coach of the Year. So that's
He
dope.
did.
That's
He
amazing for your
did.
first year coaching.
Exactly. And
Shout out.
he's bringing uh as he's bringing the HBCU experience to so many who had no
Yeah.
knowledge of how great our institutions are.
Yes.
So we appreciate what he's doing, even though there is friendly competition.
Hmm.
But we appreciate so much the light that he's shedding on HBCUs and how important they are.
Yes, shout out to Deion Sanders. Shout out to Chris
Yes.
Paul. Shout out
Yes.
to LeBron James, all shining lights on HBCUs and again
Yes.
giving HBCUs a bigger stage so that people
Absolutely.
can know that we're not just a small college and university for black and brown people,
Right.
but we're so much more than that. So many gifted and
Absolutely.
talented people that come out of there. So shout out to all of the
Yes.
people with great platforms that are showing the great things that HBCUs are doing. Congrats to
Absolutely.
Jackson State for being our HBCU of the week.
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into today's show. Our author, Tiffany, is backstage and she's going to be reading her book. And I'm very excited. When we were sifting through our authors for the season, her book was very much so a standout. So we want to
Mhm.
get to know her. We want to get to know her inspiration. So let's go ahead and bring her up on stage. Hi.
Good evening. Hi.
Good evening, guys.
So, Dr. Tiffany, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
My name is Tiffany Kouadio. I'm a physical therapist by day, pediatric physical therapist, and I am a mom and wife by day and night.
Mhm.
I am a new author of Dear Little Brown Skin Girl. This is my first published book, and it is just over 1 month old.
Oh,
So
Wow.
it's still fresh in its early stages, and I'm
yes.
just excited to share it with the masses. I'm excited to get it out, not for the necessarily the monetary
Mhm.
income that comes from it, but just from the inspiration that comes from this
Yes.
book. I really do think it would be valuable for young and old alike to be
Yes.
re-inspired to embrace who you are as you are, and that is what my book is about.
That's so amazing.
That is. Well, you're definitely in line with what we believe here at
Hmm.
Storytime Chill with Balance Seal. So, without further delay, Tiffany Quadio, take it away.
Dear little brown skin girl, written by myself, Tiffany Kouadio, and illustrated by Cameron Wilson. The day you were born was special indeed. You were perfect, snugly wrapped with 10 little fingers, 10 little toes, and a perfect button nose. Though small in size, you had a mighty cry and bright, alert brown eyes. As you grew clothed in rich brown skin, no one really noticed, especially you. Eating, diaper changes, and napping filled your day. And oh, of course, you loved to play. Your giggles were contagious, and your smile was so bright. Oh, you were such a delight. From sitting to crawling, then walking and talking, every day you grew stronger and brighter. You loved story time, especially at the library, joining your little friends every Wednesday at 9. We soon outgrew our tiny home, ready to explore the unknown. From Maryland to South Carolina, we set out onto new adventures right before you were 2 and didn't have a clue. You were tough and sassy and soon began preschool where you made friends and met new people. Your skin was never a concern because you never saw it as different, but school was filled with skin colors unlike yours, and for the first time you realized you were brown. At just 4 years old, you wished you had straight hair and white skin like most of your friends. Their skin resembled the princesses you saw on TV, and with tears you asked, "Why can't that be me?" To my surprise, you tried to paint yourself white, thinking that would make you right. So then began the first talk about your brown skin. The skin you are in is nothing short of beautiful. It's vibrant and rich. It doesn't need to be replaced with paint or fixed. Though considered a minority, it played a major part in fighting for the freedom you have today. Years ago and even today, some people disliked your skin and thought it just didn't fit in. But the more they pushed you out, the more you pushed yourself in, into bathrooms, schools, hospitals, and playgrounds so people of all colors could learn and live together freely. Your skin cannot be changed because it is your covering handmade by God. It's tough, strong, resilient, and bright, and such a beautiful sight. So whether you resemble various shades of brown, tan, chestnut, mocha, cocoa, or espresso, remember, you represent a strong people carrying a rich history of the past, present, and future. Next time you want to be Anna, Elsa, Cinderella, or a fairy princess you see on TV, remember you possess your own magic. That's not a fantasy. Your skin may be the first thing people judge before they even know you, but your strength is not only in your color, but in your mind, heart, and character. Let your beauty, character, purpose, and success speak louder than you. Always be kind, and don't be afraid to shine. You are strong, you are kind, beautiful, chosen, loved, creative, special, smart, unique, and destined for greatness. So dream big and always aim high, because my little girl, you will rise, you will shine. You are a brown skinned girl, and oh so divine.
Awesome. Oh my
That was
gosh.
so beautiful.
I mean, I really felt like you were talking to me, and I'm not a little girl, but I remember being a little brown skinned girl. And again, it was so personal and so intimate. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was
Awesome.
really good. That was really good.
Yes.
So, Tiffany, tell us, what was your aha moment? What made you write Dear Little Brown Skin Girl?
So this book is dedicated to my daughter. It is her story. It is a true story. And the ah moment definitely was when she came home and wanted to paint herself white. And I remember joking with her, like, yeah, we can paint. And when she actually had paint ready to paint herself, I realized, oh, we have an issue here. We need to talk,
Right.
because it was no longer a joke. I did not realize how much she did not understand who she was in terms of her complexion, with like she thought something was wrong with it.
Yeah.
What she saw on TV, who she was friends with at school, our neighbors, etc., all she saw was something that she was not.
Mhm.
And hence, as a child, usually, you want to be like everybody else. Everything you see,
Right.
especially little girls, they're into princesses and
Yeah.
beauty. And if all they're seeing is what we see on TV mostly, then
Right.
that's what they want to be. And so we really had to get into filling her with the knowledge of who she is as a brown skinned girl. And things changed since then. Of course, now she's always like, Mom, I'm brown, I'm beautiful, I'm dark skinned, I'm beautiful.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
she's got
yay!
it now.
Yeah.
But
That's
I'm
a
Yeah.
grateful
win.
for that experience because that's how that book came about. It just started like flooding in my mind in terms of the storyline and how to write it. I really do think that God just gave it to me. It wasn't a book
Mhm.
that I spent months writing. It just kind of came, and I presented it to a publisher who my husband had met at a conference, and she's a small, publishing, has a small publishing company. She loved it. I pitched it, and we went through all the phases, and a year and a half later, it's here. So,
Amazing.
Like
yeah,
they say, the
Well,
rest was history, right?
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
That's so needed. That's so needed, and it's right on time. It's
Yeah.
perfect timing. Your illustrations and your pictures really stood out, and I think that's important as well. On your website. You said our little girls have a vast, complex world ahead of them. They need to be reminded of their value and worth every day. Let's talk about that. So, what? Let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you feel like it's so important? Because it is so important, but why do you feel it is so important that we have these conversations? Seal and I talk about this all the time.
Yes.
We have to talk to our children. We have to talk, especially to our girls. You know, why do you feel like it's so important, and why do you feel that it is complex and it is a vast world we live in? Let's talk about that a little bit.
yeah. Let's unpack that. I feel like it's complex because colorism still exists. If we
Yes.
lived in a world where we saw color as it was and everyone was equal and the same, then we wouldn't have an issue. But
Mhm.
it's even more complex because it exists within our own community. It
Yeah.
exists within our own people. And growing up as a brown skinned girl, I thought I was better than other brown skinned girls because I had native background. My hair is softer. It has a nicer texture. I was always told, my mom was light skinned, all these things. So I was kind of in the middle. I wasn't too light. I wasn't too dark. And it was
Mhm.
complex for me, but I somehow thought my value was 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 kind of bound up in what people thought of me. And what
Mhm.
people thought
Right.
of me was that I must have had some kind of mixed ancestry. So that made me better. And then God gifted me with my daughter, who is darker skin,
Mhm.
kinkier, beautiful, tighter hair, does not look like she has any kind of mix in her or in her lineage. And here we go. There's
Yeah.
complexity here. And I also have a son who's of lighter skin, curly hair, took after more of my mother. So I have
Mhm.
two of those worlds now in my
Yeah.
home, and I have to instill in both of them their value and their beauty
Yeah.
outside of what they look like. Because
Yes.
I don't care if they came from, you know, the darkest person on the planet. They need to still know that they are beautiful the way they
Mhm.
are,
Right.
Mhm.
and they need to understand what I didn't understand, that it is not a mix of white and black that makes you more beautiful. You are
Yes.
beautiful the way God made you. I don't have
Mhm.
anything against mixed people, lighter shade, anything
Yeah.
like that. But
Right.
colorism is something that we struggle with as African American people,
Mhm.
and I'm starting to get to the point of really being able to identify with who I am
Mhm.
outside of anything that has to do with my genetics or my skin color, etc. So I'm
Mhm.
really, and I'm embracing who I am. I think the hardest thing for me was coming to the realization that it is not a mix of white that makes me beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
My brown is beautiful.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's something I want my daughter to know. It doesn't have to, when she sees people, I don't ever want her to see someone and say, oh, they're mixed, so they're pretty. Like I want her to know that
Mhm.
her brown,
Yeah.
brown or black is beautiful just the way it is. And I don't want
Mhm.
her thinking my hair is too hard or it's not, it's not right. But she's in a different time. There's
Yeah.
so many people who are embracing who they are now. I think she's going
Yes.
to have a lot more role models ahead of her
Right.
Mhm.
than I had. But I grew up in a complex world that was made more confusing. And so we're just, trying to break that down
And
Right.
navigate
for
through it.
each generation. Yes.
Yes.
And I think it is. I'm so glad you said that because I think it is an interesting time that we're living now. Our
Mhm.
children are able to experience things that we weren't able to experience.
Mhm.
You know, growing up for me, and I know I grew up in a probably a different, I'm sure a different time than you and Seal. It was just you saw certain things, and if you did not look like this, then you were not considered pretty.
Mhm.
If you did
Mhm.
not look like this, you were not told you were beautiful. And so now today we see the natural hair. We
Mhm.
see not everybody's a size 10. And,
Mhm.
and so our children, I believe our children have so many more options that are available to them to say, she's beautiful, he's beautiful, we're
Mhm.
all beautiful. And I think
Yeah.
that it does matter and it does make a difference. So
Yeah.
thank
Mhm.
you so much for shedding light on that. One of the things I noticed in your book that you talked about travel, and I pay attention to those type of details because
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing because not often do we hear or we talk to our children about travel or doing having different experiences.
Mhm.
Why did you feel it was important to include that part of your book where you have the map and you talked about how they would travel?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think that all books should have an educational component. I think it's nice that all the 50 states are in the book.
Yeah.
It can be a time to pause and say, hey, let's go over the states.
Mhm.
This is north, east,
Yeah.
west, south. And it's true, we did move from Maryland to South Carolina. I also just wanted her to vividly remember this story with as much detail as possible.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do like that it has an educational component. And we are a traveling family. My husband is from West Africa. My daughter has had the privilege to be to West Africa twice in her
Oh,
young age.
awesome.
And we've been 3 times, me and my husband, and it's it's a wonderful experience.
Mhm.
But I just want her to, for her specifically reading that book, I wanted her to see where she moved from and then other
Mhm.
states that she had also visited. And I think other children can also do that with their families.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For
That is
sure.
good, and that stands out. As an educator, I see that, and I was talking to some students today about travel, and we were talking about inferencing,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize that so many students have not been anywhere. So
Mhm.
it makes a difference for us to talk about these experiences and expose our children with hopes that everyone will eventually want to expose their children to different things and
Yeah.
travel because there's so much out there to see and experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It sure is.
Yes.
So, man, it's just so much. Wow.
Mhm.
How did you know? Well, you said that you wrote the story for your daughter because of her experience, but how did you know? What was your moment where you said, you know what? I want to be a writer and I really want to do this? Because
Mhm.
there are so many different ways to get a point across. What made you say, I want to write a book?
Mhm.
Why not
You know,
a play or why not a movie or documentary? Why did you feel
Yeah.
that you would be able to reach more people with a children's book?
I don't think I even really knew what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
I just knew that I had this vision in my mind and
Okay.
then it got onto paper. I've always been a writer. I used to write notes all the time.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think I just
Mhm.
kind of understand things better when I write them down
Okay.
versus just hearing them. And so what I was hearing, being given to me in my mind, I just wrote it down. And then as I was reading over it and writing them, like, this sounds like this is good. I think this
Yeah.
can be a book.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to share it. But I didn't have those times when it was. I did have some writer's block. When you're going through editing, like, okay, which word goes better here or there.
Mhm.
But I didn't just sit down and say, like, today I want to be a writer. I just
Right.
did what I used to always do. I wrote down thoughts. I wrote down what was coming to my mind. I wrote down experiences. And this is just one story that the combination of everything together worked. It fit.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think I was more motivated because it was my daughter's story. I
Mhm.
wanted her to see this in her lifetime. I wanted her to see
Yeah.
this as a child. And I wanted to be able to do it for her as her mom and as a Black author. So those were
Yes.
kind of all my motivations.
All the components. Yes.
Exactly.
The perfect
Yes.
recipe.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Being that you're a physical therapist and now you're a published author, compare those two roles and a mom and a wife. How
Mhm.
do you do that all? Because so many people say, well, I don't have time. So let's talk about that because we all have the same 24 hours. So
Mhm.
how do you do it? How do you get it done?
Well, I think you have to. I have what's it called? One of those like calendars. Even my calendar is like written. I
Yes.
don't like the phone calendars, but I have the calendar in there, so I have all my dates. Honestly, it is something that I'm still navigating because as a new author, you want to get as much exposure as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in all of
Mm-hmm.
these different author groups, etc. You have people who are saying, "Hey, I'm doing this and that." Even this week alone, I'm like, "Okay, I have this a story time. I have this radio thing." And in my mind, I say, "You know what, Tiffany? Starting next week, you can only commit to maybe 2 a week, maybe even one, but we can't overdo it." So
Yeah.
I'm learning how to navigate even that because this week
Right.
I feel overbooked and I am feeling that. And so I'm like, no, no, no. Moving forward, I have to have a better balance.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think there are just times that you have to commit for their time. When I'm at work, that's my work time.
Yeah.
It is on a more part-time basis so that I can have a little bit more free time with my family. And with now the authorship role of life, I do also have a small business. I do a lot. But I think you just have to give time to where it's due.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are some things in life that you can kind of step back from and scale back on, which is kind of like your entrepreneurship side of things typically, but you can't really scale back on family time.
Right.
And so I think for me, at least, when I get home, I know it's time for dinner, feeding the kids, reading, making sure I love on them before they go to bed. Once they're in bed, I'm like, okay, Tiffany, it's go time.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think it's also good to have a good schedule. My children are in bed by 7:30, and so it gives me a little bit more time at night with within like 2.5 hours. We have a pretty good schedule. And so yeah, I think those are the best things. If I was working full time right now, Monday through Friday, I work Monday through Thursday, and I'm off on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does feel like I work full time still, but I think just that Friday, even having that one day off,
Mm-hmm.
helps me
Mm-hmm.
reset, helps me answer emails, send inquiries, and gives me time to still do everything that I can. But just having that balance, and
Yeah.
the author part of it came last, and
Yeah.
so I tend to fit this in as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to it being a number one priority. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
fit it in where it works out, and I'm a morning person. Like I was telling you all
Yeah.
earlier, so, I can be up at 4:30 in the morning and I can be ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to kind of maximize my time
Right.
and be my best self
Yeah.
at the time that works best for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Mhm.
that's a
Yes.
whole entire shirt, mug, hat,
Yes,
sermon.
it is.
Being your best self at the time that it works best for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
That is.
See,
That is.
Yeah.
Tiffany came to play. No, she didn't. She did not come to play. I love
No,
it.
she did not. No, she did not. She did not at all. Well, I know we want to find out where we can find your books, but before we do that, Seal, do you have any other questions for Tiffany?
Yes, absolutely. So I know that you mentioned that, I mean, and this is something that Val and I are very experienced in. God just kind of gifted you this vision for the book. You weren't searching for it, it was just like, here, take it. How
Mhm.
important is it to obey when God gives you a vision?
Hmm.
Ooh, y'all are believers. I love it even more.
Yes.
It is really important. I mean, it's different when you're given things from people. There's uncertainties in it. There may be some error in it, but there's no error in anything that comes from God.
Hmm.
And when you're following Him and walking in His path, I mean, you can't go astray. You can't go wrong. There
Mm-hmm.
might be some ways in which you halt His purpose for you, which
Yeah.
you slow it down, and set your own time frame for it. But when He's given it to you, it's like
Right.
either you go with it or not. And I'm very big on, if God gives it to me and entrusts it with me, then I need to do it in His set time and be obedient to that, because He can use the next person tomorrow, even within the next
Amen.
2 hours. So
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
really play when it comes to things that come from Him. I'm like, all right,
Yes.
God, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get it done,
Right.
because
Yes.
I know He's like, I'm using you, but
Yes.
if you want to pass it on, let me know, because I will pass on the baton to someone else. And this was one of
Absolutely.
those stories I wasn't going to let pass on to someone else. And I do believe, like, beyond that, that no one has your exact story and no one can tell it exactly like you.
Yeah.
And I think God gives us that creativity in our experience on top of His spirit and direction because we really are unique in the stories that we have.
Yes,
And
we
so
are.
even if he passes it on, it's still not going to be your story. It's
Yes.
not going to be able to be told the way he gave it to you.
Yeah.
So I think there's still a purpose in all of our leadings from God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ooh, Val and
You
I
you
have these
clearly have been in our
conversations
conversations. Yeah.
just last
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just last night, and I
Sure.
told Val when we were talking about this yesterday, because I'm really much so into sports, and I'm like, I don't want God benching me because I'm not using my assignment or my gift. I don't want him to be like, okay, we're putting the next player in, you're benched.
Yes.
No, I'm in the game. I don't want to move prematurely in front of God,
Yes.
but I don't want to be delayed either. I want to be moving with Him when He says to move or when He
Yes.
says to shift or act. So I mean, what you just said was just right on. It was spot
Yes,
on
it
to
was.
what we always say. I also wanted to ask you, what would be your advisement to little girls and boys, but little girls when they are faced with, I want to say the mean girls or the mean kids, because kids can be mean, unfortunately. We as
Yes.
parents, we try to instill that, you're capable, you're worthy, you're beautiful, you're handsome. But when we're not around them, when they go to school, sometimes they face those conflicts. So what would your advisement be on how to handle that for young kids?
Kids can be mean. I believe as parents, it is our role to instill in our children their value, to give them those affirmations daily, because they go to school and it's challenged. It's like,
It
am I
is.
really beautiful? Do I really fit in?
Yeah.
Because here I don't. But I think sometimes just the repetition of it will help at home. A lot of people say, like, how you are at home is how you are, or how your children act is how they are at home. And so when we're dealing with bullies, we're not dealing necessarily with mean kids. We're
Yeah.
dealing with sometimes kids who are unloved, kids who are mistreated, neglected. And this is their time to, I guess, make other people feel inferior because they're hurting and
Yeah.
they're kids and they don't even know how to navigate it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we can also, beyond affirming our children, we need to teach them how to be kind, because
Yes.
there is a way to treat bullies, and it's not to treat them back with bullying.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, if my daughter was in that situation, I would say, you know what, I want you to maybe go to the little store at school and get her a candy bar, and just tell her, hey, today I was thinking about you. I wanted to give you a chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll laugh at her or something,
Yeah.
but she won't see it. But that little girl is going to receive that kindness as something and probably feel better about herself in that moment. And maybe she'll consider treating her nicely. But I think we
Yeah.
have to affirm them in who they are so they believe it, even if they're told something different, but also
Yeah.
teach them to combat evilness or just meanness with
Yeah.
kindness.
Yes.
It's something that's cliche, but it's something that really works.
It
And
does.
I think that's the best. That's the best
Mm-hmm.
way. My daughter would probably be like, "Can I play with you?"
Yeah.
That's
Buddy,
good.
like,
Probably
that's
so
not like
sweet.
that. Why are you talking to me like that? But
Right.
every
Yeah.
child is different, and there are those
Yeah.
who have a shyer personality who may take bullying way harsher. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also just important to be open with your child. They have to know that they can come home and share it with
Yeah.
you. The last thing you want is your child going in their own room, not sharing it, and then you have a bigger issue of the prevalence of suicide in children, etc., is rising. Our kids need
Yes.
to know they have a safe space at home,
That's right.
and they have cell phones and everything now. So if my daughter, text me, send me a text, I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
There are different ways to navigate it, but I would just say affirming and also teaching them to act with kindness, and then leaving that space for openness to discuss and talk about how everything went that day and what they could do better for the next day.
That's right.
In our experiences, both our experiences and of course the gift of being a parent, learning from our children. Our children are
Right.
our teachers too. We're not the only ones teaching, but they teach us too, from their experiences and their personalities and unique features as well. And so that safe space, like you said, is so important, because nowadays we have even adults suffering in silence because no
Yeah.
one taught them that it was okay to speak up
Share.
when you're not okay, or when you're confused or you're feeling some type of way. There was never a safety net for people. And so even
Yeah.
now you have people that's just masking and trying to navigate and hurting and still unloved and still, just so much. And so that's why I think that these conversations is beyond the book. The book is amazing. The illustrations, the purpose, the inspiration, it's amazing. But even beyond that, adults can learn from it, parents
Yes.
can learn from it, and children can learn from these conversations. So I appreciate you for writing the story. I also one last question, because Val used this analogy in this scenario in prior episode. But you tell her about the bread aisle. You said if you go down the bread aisle, there's
Oh,
that
there's so
analogy.
many, yeah, there are different brands of bread.
Mm-hmm.
They have the wheat bread, white bread, rye bread,
Mm-hmm.
uh, no gluten-free bread,
Gluten
whatever.
free now, right?
Right.
And there's enough room for everybody to have
Mhm.
a piece.
A
Yeah.
piece. And so when I was thinking about your book, because your book is not the only book that talks, that's affirmative, that
Yep.
pours into Black girls. But like
Yes,
you said, the way that you wrote this book, an
yes,
intimate letter to a young brown girl, the way that you wrote the book stands out.
yes.
And then number two, there can never be enough. So now the little brown girl hears it from mommy. She hears it from daddy. She hears it from teachers. She read it in a book. She saw it in another book. So yeah, I am amazing. I am magical.
Yeah,
I've heard it enough times. So don't
right.
stop writing, thinking that, well, someone else has a book on this topic. Someone else is encouraging
I was
brown
thinking
girls.
it too.
We
Yeah,
need
yeah,
more and more and
Yeah.
more, and don't stop.
It's true.
So
It's true.
yes,
yeah,
It's a good
yeah,
point. That's a
yeah.
very.
great point. Yeah, especially, when you're in a lot of the groups and things on Facebook or
Mhm.
Instagram, you do see like, oh, someone already like wrote an affirming book, or someone already has something that's similar to my content. But like you mentioned, just keep pouring it out. I'm
Right.
realizing that this world is saturated with human beings. There is
Yeah.
so many human beings on all levels, and then there is beyond the national country of the USA.
Right.
We have an international world to
Mhm.
reach.
That's
We
right.
have translations to be
Mhm.
had from our books,
Absolutely.
and we have masses to be reached be in that. And so yes, I think that there is always space for you. Always. If an author is on the fence about writing because they've seen something already in their genre, do it. There's always space for you. And when you do it, it will give you the fuel to just kind of navigate how you will,
Yeah.
to share your book and to share your story. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is
Yes.
again what conversation does when you're talking it out loud. It just leads to so many aha moments and so many gems. Well, Author Tiffany, please, please, please let our viewers know where they can keep up with you on social media and your website. Of course, we'll also link it here in the video, but go ahead and let us know how we can keep up with you.
Okay, so Dear Little Brown Skin Girl can be found on Amazon, wherever books are sold. The Books a Million, I believe it's on Barnes and Nobles. I have to check every entity, but I had called Books a Million asking, can I get my book in the store, and going through all this. And I said, let me just look online and look at my book, and it was already
It
there.
was
So
Oh
there.
wow.
it's wherever I believe what they say is wherever books are sold, they mean it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wherever
Yeah.
books are sold. And I do have my personal website, which is risingyoungreaders.com, which is where you can get your signed copy and just kind of get a more in-depth background of my story and any updates. It's a way to email me or get on the email list as well if you go in there and send me a message. On Instagram, I am just B_you. So just be you, just B_you. And then on Facebook, I'm Tiffany Kouadio. So, yeah.
Perfect. Definitely make sure that you stay connected. I'm excited because it's just over your month anniversary for your
Yes.
book, but I know, just like God gifted you this vision for this book, that through experiences and then just Him moving on your heart, that He's going to gift you more vision. So I'm
Oh,
prepared to support and our viewers to support you now and shower you in love, but I'm also excited for what's to come.
yeah.
And so I'm just getting in position to support and cheer and be in your cheer section. So we're really excited.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for that
Yes.
affirmation.
Of course. And Val, I know that you want to pour into Tiffany, so let
Yes,
us
we
know what you
do.
have.
Yes, we do. Well, thank you, Arthur Tiffany Kouadio, for being here with us this evening. And we thank you for writing your book, Dear Little Brown Skin Girl, in tribute to your daughter and all brown skin girls across the world. So thank you for that. Thank you for having the vision and the mindset to do it now, not wait, but do it now. Because so often we miss out on things because we want to wait or we're not sure. So thank you for listening to God and following the vision He and plan He gave for you to do it now. Let's start there. But some of the words that I heard you say, and I just want to talk about those things. Some of the words I heard you say was strength, mind, heart, character, kind, chosen, love, destined for greatness. I also heard you say organize, exposure, balance, schedule. And those are things that we want not only our brown girls to hear, but we want our brown boys to hear as well. So thank you for bringing all your story to light, but also thank you for exposing us to a whole nother side of the story. Having the situation with your daughter and not thinking that she was unsure about herself, but you showing her, yes, you are beautiful. And from that, not only will your daughter be blessed by it, but so many other children around the world will be blessed by the story as well. So thank you, Author Tiffany Kouadio, for your vision and your vision and mindset to follow and obey God.
Yes. Thank you, Sil and Val. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to more talks with you all
Of
in the
Absolutely.
future.
course.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. So, of course, for our viewers at home, make sure that you are subscribing to Storytime Chill on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram so that you can see all of what we have going on season 3, but also catch season 2 and season 1 authors as well. I want to personally encourage anyone watching this video, whether it's replay or Saturday morning, fresh top of the morning, go and tell a little brown girl that she's beautiful. Go
Yes.
and tell a little brown boy that he's capable, that he's handsome, that he's smart, because it's so
Yes.
important that they
Yes.
hear that. Okay. Start off daily. Then, like me, I tell my son multiple times a day, and even I start asking him, how are you? But also, how are you feeling? Because I need to know, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you confused? Are you thinking of something? You have any questions? And so just speak to the children, speak life into the children, and
Yes.
again, support these wonderful authors that are wanting to do the same. Okay?
Absolutely.
So it's been a pleasure. Join us next week for another astounding author. As always, we love to just show love to all of our Black and Brown authors here at Storytime Chill with Val and Seal. And stay tuned to see who next week's HBCU of the week is. It was fun. Bye, everyone.
Bye.